Someone can have money, success, comfort, love, freedom, and still feel that something is missing. That sounds strange at first, because most of us are taught to think that a good life means getting the things that make us happy: a better job, a better relationship, more freedom, more achievement, more pleasure. But if those things are enough, then why do some people who seem to have everything still feel empty? And why do some people who live difficult lives still feel that their lives deeply matter? This is the question at the center of Roy Baumeister's book, Meanings of Life. Baumeister's answer is simple but powerful. Happiness is not enough. Human beings do not only want to feel good, we want life to make sense. We want to feel that our actions matter. We want to believe that what we do is worth doing. We want to feel that we are part of something meaningful. So the real question is not just, how can I be happy? The deeper question is, what makes life feel meaningful? To answer this, we'll look at Roy Baumeister's book, Meanings of Life. First, we'll ask why a good life can still feel incomplete, and why Baumeister thinks meaning is not one grand answer, but a structure that helps life make sense. Then we'll look at his 4 basic needs for meaning: purpose, value, efficacy, and self-worth. After that, we'll see why modern life often feels fragmented, because people now build meaning from work, love, religion, identity, and achievement, but no single source holds everything together. Then, we'll test Baumeister's idea against happiness, suffering, death, and major life changes, moments when meaning becomes especially important. And finally, we'll compare Baumeister with Viktor Frankl, Albert Camus, and Martin Seligman to see what his theory adds to other famous ideas about the meaning of life. The main question is simple. If happiness is not enough, what else do human beings need? To begin, we need to understand why happiness alone does not answer the deeper question. When life feels incomplete, Baumeister's answer is not simply more happiness. His answer is meaning. But meaning does not mean one perfect life mission. It means the structure that helps life make sense. One of Baumeister's most important ideas is that a meaningful life does not require one grand purpose. You do not need one perfect mission. You do not need one complete philosophy. You do not need one sentence that explains your whole existence. Instead, a meaningful life only needs enough meaning in enough parts of life to make living feel coherent. That means most people do not live by one giant answer to the meaning of life. They live through many smaller meanings: work, family, friendship, love, responsibility, identity, faith, memory, achievement, helping others, personal growth. These pieces may not always fit together perfectly, but they can still make life feel understandable and worth continuing. Baumeister's view is realistic. He does not say that everyone must discover one ultimate cosmic purpose. Instead, he says human life is usually full of meaning, but that meaning is fragmented. It comes in pieces. And the goal is not perfect unity. The goal is enough coherence. Life does not have to feel like one complete equation. It can feel more like a collection of connected chapters, not perfect, but workable. So what is meaning? In Baumeister's view, meaning is not just a deep feeling. It is not just inspiration. It is not just a beautiful idea. Meaning is a system of connections. It connects actions to consequences, events to causes, present choices to future outcomes, people to relationships, pain to purpose, effort to value. A person wakes up early and goes to work. Physically, that is just movement, but meaning turns it into something else. I am providing for my family. I am building a career. I am becoming someone. I am doing something useful. The action becomes meaningful because it connects to a larger structure. Without meaning, life becomes a series of disconnected events. Things happen, we react, we move from one moment to another. But with meaning, those events form a pattern. They become part of a story. This is why meaning matters so much. Meaning helps us understand the world. It helps us guide ourselves. It tells us what to do, what to avoid, what to endure, and what kind of person we are trying to become. But Baumeister adds an important twist. Meaning is not always about seeing reality with perfect accuracy. Sometimes people survive by holding slightly positive illusions. We overestimate ourselves a little. We stay optimistic about the future. We believe we have more control than we really do. And strangely, these small distortions can be useful. They can increase confidence. They can improve performance. They can protect mental health. So meaning has a delicate balance. It helps us understand reality, but it also helps us live with reality. It helps us regulate emotions, control behavior, and keep going when life becomes difficult. It helps us belong with other people. And it helps us explain why our lives are worth living. Meaning is not just decoration added to life. It is the mental structure that helps life make sense. Baumeister's answer begins with 4 basic needs that make life feel meaningful. These 4 needs are the heart of his theory. These 4 needs are purpose, value, efficacy, and self-worth. The first need is purpose. Purpose answers the question, where am I going? Human beings need to feel that their present actions point toward some future. A student studies because it leads somewhere. A parent sacrifices because it serves someone. A worker keeps going because there is a goal. Without purpose, life feels random. There may still be pleasure. There may still be comfort, but something feels directionless. The second need is value. Value answers the question, why is this worth doing? It is not enough to have goals. We also want to believe that our goals are good, that they are justified, that they are not empty or shameful or meaningless. Someone may work hard for money, but at some point they may ask, is this really worth my life? That is a value question. The third need is efficacy. Efficacy means the sense that you can make a difference. It answers the question, can I affect what happens? People need to feel some level of control, some sense that their choices matter. When people feel completely powerless, meaning begins to collapse. Even a small sense of control can help people endure difficulty. The fourth need is self-worth. Self-worth answers the question, do I matter? People need to feel that they have value, that they are respected, that their existence counts for something. This does not always mean fame or status. Sometimes it means being needed by one person, being trusted, being loved, being useful, being recognized. Together, these 4 needs form a simple map of meaning. Purpose asks, where am I going? Value asks, why is it worth going there? Efficacy asks, can I make a difference? Self-worth asks, do I matter? When these 4 needs are strong enough, life feels meaningful. When they are weak or broken, life may feel empty, even if it is comfortable. Now we can see why modern life often feels so confusing. So where do modern people get meaning? Baumeister points to several major sources. The first source is work. Work gives people goals. It gives structure. It gives a sense of progress. It can give status and identity. When someone says, I am a doctor, I am a teacher, I am an artist, or I am building a company, work is not only a way to earn money, it becomes part of who they are. But Baumeister sees something deeper happening here. Modern society needed people to work hard, so it created the work ethic. The work ethic tried to turn work from a necessity into a virtue. Work was not just something you did to survive. Work became a sign of discipline, character, and moral worth. In simple terms, traditional work ethic says work is sacred, but Baumeister thinks this system was unstable. It overstated the intrinsic meaning of work. Many jobs were repetitive. Many workers did not become rich or fulfilled. And the promise that hard work would always lead to deep satisfaction became harder to believe. So modern society gradually replaced the old work ethic with careerism. Now work is less about sacred duty and more about self-development, achievement, status, personal growth, identity. Modern careerism says, success validates the self. That is why work matters so much today. It does not only pay the bills, it tells people who they are. It tells them whether they are succeeding. It gives self-worth. But this also makes work dangerous as a meaning system. Because if success validates the self, then failure threatens the self. A career can give purpose and identity, but it can also make a person feel worthless when achievement fades, progress stops, or comparison turns against them. So work can provide meaning, but it cannot carry the whole meaning of life. The second source is love and family. Love gives belonging. Family gives responsibility. Parenthood gives people a powerful sense that someone needs them. This is why parenting can be stressful and meaningful at the same time. Children may reduce day-to-day happiness. They create worry, exhaustion, and sacrifice. But they also create purpose, value, and connection. This is one of Baumeister's most important distinctions. People do not only choose what makes them happy, they often choose what makes life meaningful. The third source is religion. Religion is one of history's most powerful meaning systems because it can connect ordinary life to something cosmic. It can explain suffering. It can provide moral rules. It can create community. It can tell people that life fits into a larger order. But in modern society, religion no longer plays the same unified role for everyone. Science has replaced religion in explaining much of the natural world. Pluralism means people live among many competing belief systems. So religion remains powerful for many people, but it no longer provides one shared structure for all of society. The fourth source is the self, and this creates one of Baumeister's most important modern problems, the value gap. Modern society gives people more freedom than ever, more choices, more lifestyles, more identities, more possible futures, but it gives them less shared guidance about which choices are truly worth making. In the past, religion, tradition, family, and community often told people what was good, what was right, and what kind of life was honorable. Today, more of that burden falls on the individual. Meaning has not disappeared. It has been privatized. Each person is now expected to construct a value system that used to be socially given. That is why the fourth source of meaning becomes so important, the self. Modern people often turn inward. They seek meaning through identity, self-expression, personal growth, authenticity, being true to themselves. This explains the modern obsession with questions like, who am I? What is my story? What is my true path? What kind of person do I want to become? Identity gives stability. It helps people make choices. It helps them explain their past. It helps them imagine a future. But Baumeister warns that the self may be too unstable to carry the full burden of meaning. The self changes, emotions change, desires change, identity changes. If meaning depends only on the self, it can become fragile. This may be part of the psychological cost of modern life. When shared meaning systems weaken, people gain freedom, but they also inherit more pressure. They must choose their own values, justify their own lives, build their own identity, and hold everything together themselves. So modern life creates a strange situation. We have many sources of meaning: work, love, family, religion, selfhood, achievement, community, but none of them is complete alone. Modern life did not eliminate meaning. It decentralized meaning. And even more than that, it privatized it. Meaning is no longer given by one shared system. It has to be assembled from many partial ones. And that is why modern life can feel so confusing. The problem is not always that life has no meaning. The problem is that our meanings do not always fit together. Now we can see why meaning matters most when life feels good, when life hurts, and when life suddenly changes. This brings us back to happiness. Baumeister argues that happiness and meaning are related, but they are not the same. Happiness often depends on expectations. If reality is better than expected, we feel happy. If reality is worse than expected, we feel unhappy. This is why two people can live in similar conditions but feel very different. Happiness depends not only on what happens, but on how we interpret what happens. It also depends on adaptation. When something good happens, we feel excited. But after a while, we get used to it. The new job becomes normal. The new house becomes normal. The achievement becomes normal. The pleasure fades. Human beings are not designed for permanent satisfaction. We adapt, we pursue, we compare, we want more. Meaning works differently. Meaning is less about feeling good in the moment. It is about whether life feels connected, justified, and worthwhile. This is why someone can be unhappy but still live a meaningful life. A parent caring for a sick child may not feel happy. A soldier may not feel happy. An activist fighting injustice may not feel happy. A person caring for an aging parent may not feel happy. But they may feel that what they are doing matters. Parenthood shows this very clearly. Children can reduce day-to-day comfort. They create stress. They create worry. They create responsibility. But they also give powerful meaning. They give purpose. They give value. They give belonging. They give people the feeling that they are needed. Baumeister makes a similar point in his discussion of sexual restraint and morality. People do not always pursue pleasure directly. Sometimes they give up pleasure because restraint gives them something more meaningful: dignity, identity, moral value, social respect. This may sound strange if we think humans only chase happiness, but it makes sense if humans are also trying to build meaning. Again, the pattern is the same. People may sacrifice pleasure when sacrifice gives life stronger value and identity. On the other hand, pleasure without meaning can feel empty. A life full of comfort, entertainment, and freedom may still feel hollow if it lacks purpose, value, efficacy, or self-worth. So happiness asks, do I feel good? Meaning asks, does this matter? And those are not the same question. Baumeister's theory becomes especially powerful when he talks about suffering. Pain is not the whole problem. Human beings can endure a surprising amount of pain when the pain has meaning. Athletes endure pain for achievement. Parents endure sacrifice for children. Students endure stress for a future goal. Religious believers may endure hardship for faith. Activists may endure danger for justice. In these cases, pain is connected to purpose, value, identity, or contribution. But meaningless pain is different. Pain becomes much harder to bear when it cannot be connected to anything, when suffering destroys the way a person understands life, when someone asks, why did this happen? What does this mean? Who am I now? Does anything still matter? Baumeister suggests that suffering often creates a meaning vacuum. A person does not only lose happiness, they lose the structure that made life understandable. A trauma can damage purpose. A failure can damage self-worth. A betrayal can damage trust. A loss can destroy the future someone imagined. That is why recovery is not only emotional, it is also a rebuilding of meaning. People need to reconstruct purpose. They need to restore value. They need to regain some sense of control. They need to believe they still matter. This is why people often tell stories after suffering. They say, it made me stronger. It taught me what matters. It helped me become a different person. I can use this to help others. These stories are not just words. They are attempts to rebuild a livable world. Meaning does not erase pain, but it can make pain bearable. Without meaning, suffering becomes chaos. With meaning, suffering can become part of a larger story. Death reveals the same problem in an even deeper way. Death is not frightening only because life ends. It is frightening because it threatens meaning. Human beings build their lives around future goals, projects, relationships, identity, achievements, plans. But death interrupts all of that. It raises the question, if everything ends, did any of this matter? This is why people often seek meanings that outlast the self. Children, art, science, religion, community, tradition, civilization. A cause larger than one person. These larger meanings help protect life from feeling temporary and fragile. They allow people to feel connected to something beyond their own lifespan. Life changes work in a similar way. A new job, a marriage, a breakup, a divorce, a move, a retirement, a religious conversion, a loss of faith, a child leaving home. These are not only practical changes, they are changes in meaning. When we gain a new role, we often gain a new identity, a new future, a new set of responsibilities, a new reason to keep going. That is why new beginnings can feel so exciting. They do not only change what we do, they add meaning to who we are. But endings work in the opposite direction. When we lose a role, a relationship, a belief, or a community, we may feel empty, not only because something familiar is gone, but because the structure around life has disappeared. This is why people can feel grief after leaving a bad job, ending a difficult relationship, moving away from an old community, or losing an old belief system. The pain does not always mean the old life was good. Sometimes it simply means an old source of meaning is gone. Baumeister's point is that major life transitions are meaning transitions. They change purpose. They change value. They change our sense of control. They change self-worth. They change the story we tell about who we are. So whether we are talking about happiness, suffering, death, or life change, Baumeister keeps returning to the same idea. Human beings need meaning structures. When those structures hold, life feels coherent. When they break, life feels unstable. Finally, we can compare Baumeister with other major thinkers on meaning. Baumeister gives us one answer to the meaning of life, but he is not the only one. To understand what makes his view special, we can compare him with three other major approaches: Viktor Frankl, Albert Camus, and Martin Seligman. Frankl, the author of Man's Search for Meaning, sees meaning as something discovered through responsibility. For Frankl, life is not mainly about asking, "What do I want from life?" It is about asking, "What does life ask of me?" Meaning can be found in work, in love, and especially in the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. Frankl gives meaning moral depth. He reminds us that even in suffering, human beings can choose responsibility, dignity, and purpose. Camus begins from a darker place. For Camus, the universe does not give us a clear final meaning. Human beings search for meaning, but the universe remains silent. That conflict is what he calls the absurd. But Camus does not simply give up. His answer is not despair, it is revolt. To keep living, to keep choosing, to create meaning even without cosmic guarantees. Camus gives existential honesty. He forces us to face the possibility that meaning is not written into the universe. Seligman, from positive psychology, gives a more practical framework. In his view, meaning is one part of human flourishing. A good life includes positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and achievement. Meaning comes from belonging to and serving something larger than the self. Seligman gives practical tools. He helps us ask, what habits, relationships, strengths, and commitments help people flourish? So where does Baumeister fit? Baumeister is less heroic than Frankl, less tragic than Camus, less self-improvement focused than Seligman. His strength is that he explains the psychological machinery of meaning. He shows why people need purpose, why they need value, why they need efficacy, why they need self-worth, and why modern life makes these harder to hold together. Frankl tells us meaning can survive suffering. Camus tells us meaning must be created without certainty. Seligman tells us meaning helps people flourish. Baumeister tells us how meaning works inside everyday life. He explains why work matters, why love matters, why religion matters, why identity matters, why happiness is not enough, and why a life can be comfortable but still feel incomplete. So, what is the final lesson of meanings of life? It is not that everyone must find one grand purpose. It is not that happiness is bad. It is not that pleasure does not matter. The lesson is that human beings need more than pleasure. We need structure. We need connection. We need purpose. We need value. We need some sense of control. We need to feel that we matter. And we need meanings that are strong enough to survive disappointment, change, suffering, and even the thought of death. But Baumeister's final message is also surprisingly gentle. Maybe life does not give us permanent fulfillment. Maybe no achievement, relationship, career, or identity can satisfy us forever, but that does not mean they are worthless. Temporary fulfillment can still be enough. A moment of love can matter. A moment of beauty can matter. A moment of achievement can matter. A moment of connection can matter. A moment of purpose can matter. The fact that meaning does not last forever does not make it fake. It makes it human. So maybe the search for meaning matters, even if we never find one perfect final answer. Because in searching, we question, we interpret, we connect, we value, we strive, we try to understand. And maybe that process itself is part of what makes us fully human. A meaningful life is not one perfect answer hidden somewhere in the universe. It is a structure we build through work, through love, through values, through identity, through community, through responsibility, and through something beyond ourselves. Maybe happiness is what we feel when life goes well, but meaning is what helps us keep living when life does not. That is why happiness is not enough, because we do not only want to feel good, we want life to matter.